Thank you for listening to Remake Rewind, the podcast where we decide if remakes or reboots should have happened. I'm Mike, as always, and with me I've got my two co-hosts. Who are my two co-hosts?
Hey, that's me. I'm Double D.
What up, buddy?
Hey, Mike.
And that's me. It's Alex.
Hey,
Oh, hey,
Alex. What's up, bud?
Oh, hello.
Hello.
What a surprise.
Huh. Hello. So, guys, what are we here to talk about?
We watched 3 movies this time.
3 movies.
Oof, 3 long movies.
Very long. Very unnecessarily long movies.
Over 7 hours worth of Supermaning.
Oh, yeah. So we watched the 1980s Superman 2. We watched the 2006 Superman Returns. And the 2013 Man of Steel.
And the reason we did those 3 movies is because Shazam, it comes out pretty soon. It's going to be about a week after this episode drops that Shazam, a DC property, is out. And we figured we might as well do a DC property and to celebrate. Because I'm actually really excited about that Shazam movie. I was not too thrilled with it with like the,
super
the
suit?
casting.
Yeah, the super suit.
Costume.
Oh, oof.
But the trailers... it looks good. I think it looks funny. I think the action looks good. I'm actually really excited to see that movie, and that's going to be the first time in a long time I've been excited for a DC movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, I love DC. Not their movies, but I do love DC in general, and it is very disappointing every time they put out a crappy movie. So, I mean, I hope this is good.
I hope so. So apparently, the Rotten Tomatoes score so far is pretty good, with like 20-something reviews in. It's at like a 97%.
Hey, it's not bad at all.
And I'm excited to see it. Like, I think it looks good. I haven't thought a DC movie was going to look good since Wonder Woman. I didn't like Aquaman. I didn't like Suicide Squad. I didn't like Justice League. So I'm very excited for this movie, and I'm hopeful. And I wanted to go back and watch some DC movies, and at least one of these movies was considered good.
We did a lot of that, yes.
We did a lot. So,
painstakingly.
Without further ado, actually, you know what? I want to make an announcement really quick at the top. We have a phone number for the podcast now.
That is weird.
Wait,
no, it's not weird.
People still call? That's the thing?
Yeah, no, I mean, you told us about the phone number, and you're like, and I was like, why do we need a phone number?
Because, well, we do it a little bit more on Ruin My Childhood. What we do is we actually get listeners to send comments or emails about what they remember about the show that we just did or that we're about to do. So, for example, we just covered Beverly Hills 90210, and we put it out on like Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, like, tell us what you remember. And we get people to respond, and we read their comments. So we thought it could be fun if, maybe somebody leaves a voicemail, we can play their voicemail on air. So
I'm into it. So
we can do that. For a while, we had a listener segment where people would ask us, like, hey, who would you cast in this movie if it got remade or whatever? And they would ask us questions. So if people start utilizing that, I would be happy to start playing recordings on the
Daniel
podcast.
Radcliffe as Wolverine.
Oh, my God.
No. No, just because he's short. So anyway, that phone number, if anybody wants to ask us a question for us to read on air or answer on air, that phone number is 64MDXpods1. For people who are more number-oriented,
hey,
that number is 646-397-6371. That's 646-397-6371 or 64MDXpods1.
Okay, let me just make a call really quick. Give me 1 second. Oh, it's working. Oh shit! Let me hang up.
Play the voicemail. There's a really sexy man doing the voicemail for it.
All right, this is what it is.
Please state your name after the tone, and Google Voice will try to connect you.
Alex. This is bad podcasting.
Very successful. I don't know what you mean.
Hi, this is Mike from MDXpods. Thank you for calling the MDXpods hotline. If you want to leave a comment for Ruin My Childhood or Remake Rewind, please know that we may actually play the audio clip on air. So if you don't want to hear your voice on a podcast, please let us know at the end of the voicemail, and we will just read a transcript of it on air.
Oh, so
if you have ideas for topics you'd like us to cover on either podcast, you can let us know here. You can send us a text. Of course, you can reach us at pretty much every social media or at mdxpods@gmail.com. Once again, thank you guys for supporting the show. Thanks for listening, and we hope to hear from you. Bye.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Leave a voicemail randomly. Again, that's 646-397-6371.
64 MDX Pods 1.
Easy to remember.
All right, let's get back to our topic for this episode. We did Superman, And I mean, I've seen all of these movies before. Have you guys seen all of these?
Yes, I have seen them all.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty popular movies. I'm ready to just talk about them. What say you guys?
Let's do it.
Yo, let's get into it. Superman 2. I got a plot summary for this, guys.
All right, go for it.
All right. Picking up where Superman the movie.
Hey guys, I
left
got a voicemail on the
off.
hotline.
Oh no.
Anyway, picking up where Superman the movie left off, 3 criminals, General Zod, Ursa, and Nan, from the planet Krypton are released from the Phantom Zone by a nuclear explosion in space. They descend upon Earth where they could finally rule. Superman, meanwhile, is in love with Lois Lane, who finds out who he really is. Lex Luthor escapes from prison and is determined to destroy Superman by joining forces with the 3 criminals. That was by Keith Howley.
Thanks, Keith.
I mean, that's pretty accurate.
So
this is a really long movie.
It was a long movie, and the thing about this movie is it got recorded twice, essentially.
Right.
So it's weird because movies didn't really have sequels until Godfather Part 2. Like, Godfather Part 2 apparently is like the second sequel in like cinematic history, at least in American cinema. But prior to like the 70s, movies just didn't get sequels very often. And this was a movie that did get one, obviously. But what's weird is they actually filmed the first Superman movie, Superman the movie, and this one basically back to back before the first movie even came to theaters. So about 75% through filming the second movie, they fired Richard Donner, who directed the first movie.
Oh.
And then they hired a different guy, and he reshot most of the movie. In fact, it has a completely different opening. So like, because Richard Donner was so popular in like the 2000s, people just like demanded that we get the Donner cut. So there is a second version of this movie that has different footage that was made by Richard Donner. So there are 2 different cuts of this movie that are pretty different. And the biggest difference is like the beginning. So apparently originally the thing that brought the Kryptonians to Earth was the nuclear explosion in space. And the Donner cut, the end of Superman 1 goes directly into this one. And because there was a nuclear missile at the end of that movie that he puts out into space, and that was supposed to break the Phantom Zone, and then the Kryptonians come. In this version, there's a terrorist attack in France, and Superman...
It's a hydrogen bomb.
Yep. There's a terrorist attack, and he brings a hydrogen bomb into space, and then it brings them back. So, you know, that's just one of many differences. But yeah, this movie was filmed twice, and that kind of brings some other stuff up. So as we get through the movie, I will bring up some more things.
So this was a weird movie because a lot of it, Superman just didn't know what the hell was going on.
Well,
it's just a lot of like Superman being coy with Lois. He's like, I'm not Superman. What are you talking about?
Wasting time.
Can we talk about the beginning of the movie though real quick?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it had like a 15-minute recap of the original movie in it.
Yeah, it was just cutscenes from the original movie.
It was weird. So it had like, you see Zod and Ursa and Nam like go and break like a stormtrooper's neck, right?
Yeah.
Like a thing that looked like a knockoff stormtrooper.
Sneaky.
And then it just shows them in like a black flash, and then it's like a tribunal, like, you guys are dickheads, you're going to the Phantom Zone, and then it cuts to like the classic, you know, intro made by John Williams, and then it's just like a 15-minute cut of the first movie with baby dick and all.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you got full on baby dick there.
Full on like toddler dick lifting a truck, being all happy and naked.
Yeah. He started wearing his cape after a while.
Yep. So yeah, anyway, you guys were talking about him being coy. Let's go into him being coy.
All right, so Lois and Clark basically go chase a story, and they're supposed to be undercover as a couple, and then Clark, of course, disappears while Superman shows up, and she puts 2 and 2 together finally, and calls him out on it.
Wasn't there something else that it wasn't just him being gone? Wasn't there something else that he did that made her start questioning.
His glasses fall off, and she looks at him, and she's like,
"That's right."
God.
She's like, "Wait a second."
And then he disappears to go get her a hot dog
Yeah.
and fresh squeezed orange juice. And then she's like, "Wait a second, this guy's never around."
What a coincidence!
What? And he kind of looks like him.
And then she decides to jump in the river and prove he's Superman.
Stupid.
And
Which was a
yeah,
fail.
he just uses his like laser vision and
To
whatnot
cut off a branch. And
so-
save her.
yeah, and saves her without saving her, kind of thing, right? But then he like drops his glasses in the fire in their
and
honeymoon
reaches his
suite.
hand in the flames.
right, which. And she's just like, he didn't get burned. It's like the opposite of the Wicker Man. And then he's just like, okay, I guess we have to talk. And she's like, I'm in love with you and I really want to fuck you. And he's like, I guess we really need to talk. Let's go back to my place. And he takes her to the Fortress of Solitude and immediately removes his powers.
Yeah, that was dumb.
Why? He hasn't even been on a date with her and he's going to
He's
lose
in love
his
with her.
powers.
He's madly in love with Lois Lane.
But still.
But why
fucking
did he
one
need to
armor
lose his
in the
powers to
sky.
be
well,
with her?
well, yeah. Why did he have to lose his powers? Like, I don't know.
And also, why is he completely oblivious to the rest of the world?
Right. Well, yeah. So they're only supposed to be gone for like 3 days or some shit like that. So they fly to the Fortress of Solitude, which is in the like supposed to be like in the North Pole.
North Pole.
And then somehow they drive back. I don't know how that works.
Later on, he walks back there.
So yeah,
as a normal human, he walks back to the Fortress of Solitude.
yeah. So when they get back to like civilization, they're at a diner and he gets the shit beat out of him.
Oh man. And he's like laughing about his blood. You're gonna have to
Right.
hire a bodyguard.
And then then he
Such
sees
a-
on the news the whole. And what's weird is, so when he loses his powers, it's his mom on like the little like Fortress of Solitude TV, and she's like, "Hey, we really hope you don't want to lose your powers, but we'll let you do it if you want to."
And this is
But
she
it's
saying
kinda
like
dumb.
you can't undo it too or
You
something.
can't
she says it's
undo
permanent.
this.
Yeah.
It's permanent. There's no way back. And then he just sees on the news like Kryptonians, and we'll get into the Kryptonians in a bit, I'm sure. But then he's just like, "Well, gotta go back."
And
then
he
you hear the
walks back through the
Proclaimers.
snow.
It's like, "And I would walk 500 miles."
He's wearing
and
slacks,
I would
dress
walk
shoes, and a light
500
jacket.
miles. Yeah, and so he walks back through the wilderness, gets back to the Fortress of Solitude, and he looks busted as fuck.
Man.
And then he
Father!
just puts a green crystal in the thing and gets his powers back.
Yep. Obviously, it was not. Mother was a liar. It was not permanent.
Yeah, that was way too convenient and way too easy.
Oh, man. Oh, man. I
And
have
then
so
he
many
fights
questions about
Kryptonians.
these new powers I've never seen, except in this movie.
I can answer your questions.
Please tell me.
What questions?
What are these powers?
So-
Why can he make clones of himself? Why
And also get
can they like
telekinesis
teleport
with his
things?
finger?
Yeah, with the finger. And what is with the shield throw thing?
This shield
The
throw is the
cellophane
best.
S.
Fucking
man.
vinyl wrap. And what's this kissing and having people forget?
The roofie, the
Oh,
roofie
God.
mind race.
Yeah.
He Bill Cosby'd her.
Oh, man.
So
There was a picture of Bill Cosby in Perry's office.
was there?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, Richard Donner knew.
He knew.
He knew, and he didn't speak up.
Oh,
Bastard.
man.
So during the it wasn't until like the late 80s, early 90s that Superman became the Superman that we know today. In the 30s when he first started, like the first 2 years, he really did leap buildings in a single bound, and he had like a range of jumping like 1/8 of a mile,
Like the Hulk.
like the Hulk. And then they realized when they started doing cartoons that didn't look cool, so they just it actually made it harder to animate. So they made him start flying, and then that translated into the comic books. So in the 50s, 60s, 70s, when comic books were super, super campy, Superman literally had any power he needed. There's a version where he literally like points his finger, and you can have a miniature version of Superman come out that has all of his powers.
Oh, dude,
That's hella
the
dope.
only power I want.
Yeah, he also has like powers where he
Mini-me.
can literally, like he has like telekinesis powers in the comic books randomly. He has like telepathy randomly. He has like super learning where he could just like read a book really fast and just remember it. Like during this era, even when this movie came out, he literally could do anything that the writers wanted him to do. So this was actually very comic book accurate at the time.
That was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous that they just kept coming up with new powers, and it's just like, what?
Shield throw, go.
And then it's not just the powers too. It's also like the weird technology that exists. So like Lex Luthor gets out of prison using like a hologram projector that makes it look like he and his cellmate were like playing chess in their cell. Yeah. And like the guard walks in and then it disappears. He's like, "What? Where'd they go?" And then like
he's like, "Oh well." He steps. He's like, "All right, I'm gonna go back." And then they come back. He's like, "Wait, what? How? Why are they back? What the fuck?"
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And then he has the worst escape ever. He has like a hologram technology that still doesn't exist today. And then he escapes prison in a hot air balloon that can only hold 2 people. And he takes a hot air balloon all the way from presumably somewhere in the United States all the way up to the North Pole.
Good old Lex Luthor.
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
Good old Gene Hackman.
So the thing about this version, because we did not watch the Donner cut, a lot of what we see is not actually Gene Hackman. So they actually hired Gene Hackman lookalikes and voice impersonators and, clever editing. So there's a lot of times where you see like the back of a bald man's head and you hear talking. They would take some of the lines that were recorded from the Donner version, or they would just use some footage from that, or they would get body doubles or voice doubles and just kind of plug stuff in. That's why he sounded inconsistent throughout the movie, because some of it actually was Gene Hackman and some of it wasn't.
I didn't really care too much.
Yeah.
There wasn't a ton of Lex Luthor in this movie.
No, not really.
It was mostly at the end.
Yeah. And then, God, this movie's so weird. Like, one of the things that always bothered me, even as a kid, was in the, when they actually go and fight. Like, Superman shows up to Metropolis and starts fighting, and a lot of people were getting hurt. Like this like a bus got destroyed.
Standing there and watching.
Everyone's just standing there and watching. And so like buildings were getting destroyed, and he goes like in the sewer and destroys like a bunch of the sewer. And like there's a lot of destruction.
I thought it was funny that they thought he died just because he got hit by a slow moving bus.
They're like, he's dead.
Right.
He's dead.
Well,
killed him. Let's get him.
One of the Nom, who's supposed to be like really stupid.
Yeah.
He gets put under something that Superman can carry easily.
And he's
trapped. Well, and then it's one of the things that really bothered me even as a kid is there's a point where they grab like a flagpole or a lamppost or something like that, and they hit Superman, and he goes flying. And the thing is, he's supposed to be more dense and stronger than
the flagpole.
The stuff. I feel like the fire pole would just, because there's a point where he gets hit by a car walking across the street at the beginning of the movie, right?
He's crushed.
And the car wraps around him, and he doesn't even move. So if a car, which is a lot heavier than a flagpole, has an engine block in it and has a lot more mass when it's driving, there's a lot more force to it, stops and wraps around him and doesn't send him flying. Why would a flagpole do that? Wouldn't the flagpole just like bend backwards?
Maybe it's got kryptonite in it.
No, it doesn't. So yeah, that always bothered me because that would happen. Like it wouldn't. Like it would have just like bent backwards or bent in half.
There's a lot of things
broke.
that wouldn't have happened here.
It doesn't make sense.
So during that fight scene, there's a part where all three of them are blowing down the street, and there's 2 guys on telephones that just want to continue their conversation.
Right.
Why would you do this?
I think
I don't know.
Yeah, he was like sliding on the floor, continuing his conversation, and I think he starts
like
laughing.
saying,
Yeah, it's stupid. It's so hokey.
And then the guy on the roller skates.
No, what I love about this is like let's throw everything we can to show how windy this situation is.
Right.
Here's some firemen with a hose. Oh, no!
Like a 3-minute
somebody with a
scene.
kite, and you just see the kite
God.
fly away or something like that. Like that's how absurd it was.
And then when they're showing the bus, when he gets off of it, all the people are just standing against the bus with their arms up to show that they're being blown against the bus.
Right.
It's so ridiculous.
The other thing that was pretty crazy about this movie was all like the pun work in it, and just like the one-liners. Like at the beginning of the movie when they're in France, and somebody's like, "Oh, they're." Or he finds out that Lois Lane is going to cover this terrorist plot, which it's pretty incredible that they're able to fly from America to France as soon as they find out that there's a hostage situation, and they get there before it's resolved.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, before Superman / Clark ends up over in France, he's talking to Perry White, and he's like, yeah, there's a terrorist attack, and I hear that there's a hydrogen bomb, and he goes, oh man, that's terrible. And he goes, yeah, that's why they call it terrorism. Stupid stuff like that.
Oh,
and then, let's see, I wrote down a bunch. They keep calling planet Earth Houston because that's what the Kryptonians heard.
From the Moonman. I had a question as to why Superman flies so slowly, since we know he can fly at
I
the speed
have
of
that
light.
note as well, because he went so fast he went back in time before.
Yeah. Why does he just choose to fly that slowly? Or
Right,
what is-
that was my question too. You should have been able to, if you can travel faster than the speed of light to go around the Earth that many times and
Oh my
reverse its
God.
rotation, he should have been able to get to like France in like
Anywhere.
a second.
Yeah. Anything he chooses to do in this movie is very slow.
Right. It just doesn't make any sense. It's so hokey. There's a point where like the the Kryptonians redo Mount Rushmore in their image.
Oh yeah, and they just destroy Abe Lincoln.
Yeah. Well, they completely destroy everybody. It's just the three of them.
Oh man, that was so good. That was so good. Wait, also the final, I guess it would be a battle, or they just fall into the smoke. Is that
Yeah.
the resolution? Like, are they dead now? What?
They're dead because they're humans, and he killed 3 humans essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He killed 3 people. He
But
killed
I
3
mean-
villains.
Do we know they're dead? They just fell into the smoke. Like, where did they go?
I don't know, but they're
They're
dead.
just preserved.
Oh man.
Yeah, but that was my note too. Why doesn't he fly faster? Last movie he time travels.
Yeah,
And also,
exactly.
if he can time travel, like to me that makes more sense to go through and when he gave up his powers, like wouldn't it have made more sense just to time travel to the point where he gave up his powers and then just not do that and then immediately go to where the Kryptonians are?
And
So that
save
way the
all dead
Kryptonians didn't do
people?
any damage?
Yeah.
Like
No.
once you have time
No,
travel
no,
in
man.
the mix and it's time travel at will, why would he not just do that to fix all the problems?
These are the questions we need to be asking.
Because there's a lot of damage to Metropolis, like billions of dollars of damage. The White House is destroyed, and he just brings like a flag back to the
Yeah.
White House at the end of the movie.
President.
Sorry, I was away.
Yeah, it's so like the dialogue in this movie is terrible. There's the point where Lois Lane is riding on the bottom of an elevator, and she's
Yeah.
just like, Nobel Prize, Nobel Prize, Nobel Prize.
And she spelled
Big
it out.
Nobel, big Prize. Well, they like the French police blow the elevator cable because the bad guys leave the bomb in the elevator for some reason. It makes no sense. There's a point where Superman like breaks a juicer because he smashes his thumb in an orange juicer. It doesn't make any sense.
I like how Lois Lane tricks the cop. She's like, yeah,
Fucking
stairs?
stairs. Yeah.
Stairs. And he's like, stairs? Stairs? And she just takes off. I'm like, oh, okay. That's hey, Pulitzer, whatever, journalism at its best.
Right. Well, it's just. Oh, I found some of my other stupid one-liners. So there's a point where a little kid that jumps, like he's playing around on Niagara Falls at the top of the falls, and he like falls over the rail because he's playing on the other side of it, and he saves him. And the kid is like, "Yeah, that was fun. Let's do it again." He's like, "Only 1 ride per customer."
Oh my god.
Like, that's the level of script we're working on. And now I get this is 1980.
So what if he jumped off again? Would Superman have just let him die?
Yes.
He would have
only one
shouted,
ride
only
per
one
customer,
ride.
Oh,
It's one of the things I do appreciate about this movie, and it's not something we really get in the other two, and we'll get to it, is when he's Clark Kent, he is like bumbling and he's like, oh,
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
doesn't
a
like me,
different
and just
person.
like he's just super goofy, right? But when he's Superman, he stands up and he's charismatic and he's cracking jokes, and the whole point is it's not just the glasses that are his disguise, it's
It's a
his
personality.
demeanor and everything else, right? Which, I can appreciate to an extent. What's interesting to me was, even with Lois Lane, when she finds out, he immediately stiffens up, even though he's not in the Superman suit. Like, he stiffens up, his shoulders are squared, and he's very confident. He's a completely different person, and I appreciate that. Like, I really do think Christopher Reeve kind of plays he's kind of like how Christian Bale's Batman. There was Batman and there was Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne was an act. Where even Michael Keaton, George Clooney, Ben Affleck, they all basically play the same character. Like Bruce Wayne and Batman are the same, and that's not how it should be. So I do appreciate that there's like some dichotomy in his Superman Clark Kent role.
I thought Ben
I
Affleck
agree.
was a good. He made a good Bruce Wayne.
So Kryptonians. Before we move on to the next movie, what do you guys want to say about them?
Oh God.
The fights.
They're so-
The fights
There's
were
a-
interesting. I like Nan, how he like had the powers but not really. Like when he tries to laser the snake, and he just gets like a beam that shoots like 3 inches for a second and then it goes away.
Or he's
What?
staring at the truck for trying to set it on fire.
I
Yeah,
thought the
well, and then they use
Kryptonians
a
were
mirror.
supposed to be like perfect beings, right? I mean, like,
Right.
why do they have Nam?
I don't know.
Why is he
Well,
alive?
I did think it was funny when Zod was using his laser vision on a gas tank on a big rig, and he's trying to get it to blow, and he was like using his laser vision for like seriously like 30 seconds before Superman's like, "Oh, a mirror."
Yeah, and he's
And
just
he, like-
standing there for a second. He's just looking at it.
Well, and then when his laser goes back and it hits Zod, there's a huge explosion, and there's a blast, and Zod's standing in front of a billboard, and there's a huge explosion, and then all of a sudden you see like a Zod-shaped
There's an outline.
Yeah.
outline
And
on the
burn marks.
billboard in
Yeah.
color, and then everything else was just like burnt. It's like when a Looney Tunes cartoon when they run through a wall and you see the shape of them. It's just absurd.
Yeah. There was one
yeah.
scene where Superman kicks Nam in midair, but it's like super slow.
It's super slow.
Yeah, it's so weird, but it's hilarious.
Yeah. What about the Superman changing effect at the beginning of the movie when he runs out of the Daily Planet to go to France? How he literally just like runs, rips his shirt, and then you see it blurry for a second, and then he's just flying away
Super
in his
speed,
Superman
man.
suit.
Super speed.
Oh,
My
stupid.
favorite change was when the kid was falling. Clark sees him fall, runs back normally, goes change, and then flies out. I'm like, that kid would have been dead. So, like,
It was a long fall.
And then I did like at the very end of the movie when so Lex Luthor, Lois Lane, and the 3 Kryptonians and Superman are in the Fortress of Solitude, right? And like all of like Metropolis is just like, Superman's a bitch. He ran away like a little bitch. And then they fall. It's because he came up with a plan. He was going to steal the Kryptonians' powers and then murder them. This is premeditated, at least 2nd-degree murder at this point. But he gets them over to the Fortress of Solitude, and he tells Lex, like, hey, like, we need to kill these people. Let me get them into this room, and then I'll take their powers away. And Lex is like, nope, don't go in that room, guys. Superman gonna kill you. And so they put Superman in the room, but he reconfigured it. And Zod's like, kneel before Zod, and he like looks like he's gonna do it, and he's like, kiss my hand, and then he just breaks Zod's hand and then murders him.
Why did he whisper those things?
Because the whole
Like,
point
kiss
is he
my
wanted
hand,
to trick.
kiss it.
He wanted to trick everybody.
kiss the hand.
No. I mean, well, yeah. I'm not talking about Superman to Lex Luthor, which also they have super hearing, so they would have heard him, right? But I'm talking about Zod when after Superman comes out of the molecular chamber, he's like, "Kiss my hand, kiss my hand, kiss my hand."
So essential.
The whole thing is like they didn't really. So the Kryptonians aren't very smart, and I get that they're supposed to be aliens from another world, and they're not going to get everything. But they end up on the moon, and there just happens to be astronauts on the moon who they murder. Like they just like see a patch. Like it makes no sense. They just literally see a patch on the astronaut suit and go.
Rip it off.
She just grabs it and like rips it off.
I love that Ursa had patches all over her from like the people she's just fucking
she
killing.
takes the badge.
Yeah,
and
and so
Takes
she's
a bunch
like,
of patches.
my hand just ripped this metal fiber like it was nothing. So like these spacesuits are supposed to be made out of metal, but then that guy's suit like inflates, and then she just like kicks him in the nuts, and he flies off into space. They just murdered 2 astronauts for no reason, and then
she was totally talking in space.
Yeah.
Which is
well, they don't need to breathe. And then when they get to Earth, like a snake, she picks up a snake. She's like, "What a primitive creature!" And it bites her, and she goes, "Ouch!"
Yeah, that would not have pierced.
No, it definitely didn't. And then she just like stares at it, and she's like, "Oh, look, I have laser vision." And then Zod's like, "No shit, we all have these powers." It's like, how the fuck do you know this, you asshole?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And she's like super obedient to him.
Yeah, she is.
He's a general.
Yep. And then like I did like the little thing where they go to the president of the United States because they go to like a military base and they're like, I'm a general, and he goes, who do you report to? And he goes, I report to the president. And he goes to the White House and some guy's like, I'm the president, and then he just immediately kneels and like, you're not the president. The president would never kneel.
Yeah.
And then the president shows up and is like, if this is gonna save lives, I'll kneel. And then he immediately kneels. It makes no sense, but
it doesn't. It really doesn't.
Since we got 2 other movies, I think we should move on.
Yeah. Oh, God. All right, let's go to the next extremely long movie.
All right.
Superman Returns.
Superman Returns. And this is from Claudio. After a long period into space, looking for the remains of planet Krypton, Superman returns to Earth. He misses Lois Lane, who lives with Richard White and has a son.
Dick White.
Meanwhile, Lex Luthor plots an evil plan using crystals he stole from the Fortress of Solitude to create a new land and submerge the USA. That's from Claudio.
Thanks, Claudio.
This movie, man. This was so hard to watch.
I worked at the movie theater when this came out, and when I worked there, I would watch movies on my breaks and everything. I don't think I ever went into this one on my break unless I knew exactly what part it was at. Unless it was like the at this point, I'd say it's almost iconic, like the slow motion bullet scene. But that was like the only part that I liked, or the plane crash scene.
The plane crash.
Other than those 2 scenes, if I'd poke my head in, if it wasn't at those 2 scenes, I would bounce and go watch something else.
Yeah, I mean, you don't actually get a good look at the super suit in this movie until 40 minutes in. 40 minutes.
I've definitely seen this movie a couple times. Like, I saw it in theaters. We owned it. I actually currently own it. I had it on DVD, unopened, and I opened it for this.
Oh, I'm sorry. You could have still returned it.
And it was only I got it on like Black Friday for $1.99 a couple years back.
Still not worth it.
Yeah, it would cost me more money than I spent on it to go somewhere and return it.
What do you think about Brandon Routh as Superman?
So the thing about this movie is this is supposed to be the same Superman as Christopher Reeve.
That's questionable.
Weird.
The Donner.
Right. It makes some very problematic things in this world because... So when they announced this movie, they said it was going to be a sequel that ignores Superman 3, 4, and 5. So this is supposed to be straight
Superman
after,
3.
or 5 years after Superman 2. So if you
what
go by
time
that,
period is this supposed to be? Is it supposed to be
That's
1985?
You would 1986. Yeah, 1985, 1986 is when it should be in theory, right? If it's a direct sequel to that one, to Superman 2. But this one has flat screens. It has laptops and cell phones and really nice digital DSLR cameras. It doesn't cell phones with camera phones in them. It doesn't really make sense that it's a sequel. So when people brought that up, they're like, "Oh, it's more of a spiritual sequel." But then they directly refer to things that happened in the previous movies. So they refer directly to Lex Luthor going to the Fortress of Solitude before.
Yep.
They mentioned that, and they say specifically that the second, third, and fourth movie didn't happen, that they almost killed Superman. He's almost killed Superman before. But that would have been in Superman 4 and 5, I think, when they had, like, when Superman almost died from Lex Luthor. Because I don't think there was kryptonite in the first movie. I can't remember the original Superman movie well enough to know. But, yeah, it just doesn't, the continuity of this movie doesn't really make sense. But to answer your question, I didn't dislike Brandon Routh.
I did. I hated him.
If you're going by needing to be like Christopher Reeve, he looks a lot like him. He does
look a lot like him.
He looks a lot like him. He's got that, he's kind of a pretty boy, but he's not super buff, but you could tell he's in good shape because Christopher Reeve isn't buff. Yeah,
that was so bad.
Because he has super dark eyes in real life. I think he did a good job with like how his voice was a little bit deeper as Superman and his kind of like his little one-liners, and
he also had very similar demeanor like compared to like Clark Kent, where he's like a little passive and
bumbling.
Yeah,
he just didn't seem very super.
Yeah, well, and the thing about this is, I also think it's
It's
because
the
this
way-
is a Superman that's unsure of himself.
It's just an
And his place in the
emo,
world.
dark Superman that's just hella moody, and it's just
It's the Spider-Man 3 of Superman.
it just sucks.
I would say, yeah,
Because he's like,
yeah,
oh, there's
kinda.
there's no one out there for me. I come back home, and the one I love is not there for. It's just.
Well, he disappeared for 5 years.
Yeah.
Well, so the thing is, this movie had some like disjointed things as well, where like originally, like Cal Penn is in this movie, and this was at like his peak. He was doing like 2 Harold and Kumar movies at this point already. You know, he was big, and he's barely in this movie, but apparently his role was supposed to be a much larger originally. Like when he read the script, his role was that he actually worked at NASA and faked finding evidence of Krypton still being around, and that's what caused Superman to leave. But that was completely cut out, kind of thing. So that's a little strange.
I mean, it was already 2.5 hours. So.
It was 2.5 hours, but the things that you could have cut was like the creepiness. Like this Superman was fucking creepy.
He's just
Expand.
watching Lois Lane.
He goes to Lois Lane's house and like X-ray visions through and is watching her. Like honestly, it would have served him right if she was
Feels like
just writing James
somebody's watching
Marsden.
me.
So the thing that's weird is like, so in this version, when he uses his like super hearing, it's like all digitized a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think it would have made this movie much better if he was just got really fucking angry because he goes to spy on her, and she's just like seriously like riding that James Marsden dick, and she's like moaning and stuff, and you just hear it like a digitized moaning. It's like,
Oh, poor Clark.
and then he just lasers through and murders them both.
And
He's also a dick to dogs in this movie.
was he? I didn't even notice.
Yeah, when he goes, so he crashes back in his spaceship.
What is up with this movie and dogs, though? Like
Right,
they
and
reference
he-
eating dogs like 3 times.
Yeah. So in this one, like he shows up at the 15, 20 minutes into the movie, because the opening of the movie is Lex Luthor kind of thing, but he crashes like in a disco ball spaceship, and then he's like all super nauseous. His mom like cleans him up, and then the next morning he like buries the spaceship, and he sees a dog, and he's like, "Hey, dog." Oh, you want to play fetch?
Oh,
And he like
yeah,
picks
that's
up the
right.
ball and he throws it super far, and the dog is just like, "What the fuck, you dick!" Like he runs like 10 feet, and then it's like, "Wait a second, you're a dickhead," and then like stops. Like, why the fuck would you do that to a dog?
Because you don't care about it.
Right. But yeah, to your point, yeah, they mentioned eating Pomeranians a couple times. So at the beginning of the movie, Lex Luthor is with this like old woman who's dying, and she's like basically like, "You've gone down on me a bunch, so I'm gonna leave you my money." And meanwhile, like like this woman's family's like banging on the door, like, "Don't do it. He's a criminal. He's just trying to get your money." And she's like, "You've given me pleasures that I can never see. I've never had before." And you see 2 Pomeranians, and then he leaves and then comes back. Like, I don't really understand like the timeline, but basically he leaves the mansion, comes back with Parker Posey, Cal Penn, and like a couple of henchmen, and you just see a Pomeranian with a pile of fluff around it eating a small little bone. And Parker Posey goes, "Wasn't there 2 of those?"
Also, why was she in like 1985?
I don't know if she's supposed to be like the same character from Superman 1. I honestly don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
No.
Her
it didn't.
character didn't make any sense. Like, but towards the end of the movie, she starts getting a conscience and's like, "Oh, maybe we shouldn't be doing this thing." And
I think
she
I think that actually is because Lex Luthor almost killed her in that
Car
Mustang.
crash, yeah.
that.
and
Well, and then
then
also like
Superman
killing
saves her a couple times.
killing millions of people, and he says billions, which I don't know if what he was doing would have killed billions of people.
It's everyone. He wants to kill everyone.
But it wouldn't have killed everybody. The whole point was, so the big plot of this movie is once again another real estate deal kind of thing. So in the first movie, he wants to use like a nuclear missile on a earthquake fault to cause California to sink into the ocean, so that way like all this property he owns in like Nevada, Utah kind of thing becomes beachfront property, and he can make a ton of money off of it. In this one, he's essentially doing the same thing. Like, I want to make my own beachfront property and sell it. So it's kind of weird. And apparently, like, this is based off Trump or something like that.
Wait, what?
Or maybe it's not this. I know there is a villain that's based off Trump. that like a person actually said was actually based off them. I don't know if 1980 is early enough for it, but anyway, oh no, it's Biff in Back to the Future is based off Trump. That's the one. But yeah, it's a stupid plot, and when he's like revealing the plot to Lois Lane, like you see like, oh, I'm gonna make this island, but then I'm gonna make it bigger so it floods the United States, and she's like, what, you think Europe's just gonna let you, the rest of the world's gonna let you have it? And he goes, yeah, that's exactly what's gonna happen. No, one of the other countries would nuke it.
Well, he's like,
all the Krypton dirt also seems super brittle.
It looks like lead pencils just everywhere.
Yeah, it looks like graphite, and it's
Everything
like
broke so
super
easily.
rocky and crystally. Like, you can't build on that. You can't farm on it. Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't
nothing's gonna
have
grow
any natural resources. Like, there's no lumber, there's no water, there's no animal life. Like, you can't just be like, oh, I've got a giant island in the middle of the ocean and it's gonna work out for us. Like, this was 2006. They weren't even really using like desalination for salt water yet. So like, how the fuck are you gonna ship water from across the ocean?
Yep, that's exactly what they're gonna do.
This is stupid. It makes no sense.
Good old Lex Luthor.
But like the way that this works is, and it makes no goddamn sense. So, and this is in all three movies, that like their computers are run by like crystals and stones kind of thing.
Yep.
And so it's like these crystals are what make the computer work. Where like you see Marlon Brando and his and the mom, and then he's like, oh, if you take a little bit of these crystals and put it in water, it makes another giant crystal that, you know, interacts with the environment around it and makes the crystal similar. So that's why the crystals are white and shiny and frosty, is because it was in the snow. And this one is like weird and shitty because it's like ocean minerals. But why would these just create giant islands if they're also like computer chips?
I don't know.
It makes no
I have
sense.
no answer.
And then, and then he also made it kryptonite rocks. Like, he just planned ahead, and he like made the missile with
He just puts
kryptonite
it in a
and these
circle.
crystals, so the rocks would have regular rock and kryptonite growing through it.
I have to say, both of these Supermen so far have not been very observant.
No. Well, and the other thing about this one is like, I think this might have come out a little too early or overly relied on CGI, because like the flying effects looked fine because they did that practically, where they actually there's a really funny gif out there where you see Brandon Routh lying on this like green pillar, and you see like two guys in like Green Man suits with like being puppeteers on his cape, and then it's just green screen. But like when they do any actual
Fighting.
CG, it looks bad. Like when he's catching the plane, it looks really
So
bad. Or
bad.
when as a kid he's like running and jumping,
Yeah.
and then he like hits the roof and falls through the roof. It looks terrible.
So bad.
And there's no fucking way Lois Lane survived this movie.
No, dude.
Like
not a
in
chance.
that plane scene,
She would have
she's
died,
dead
broken her back multiple
immediately.
times. Her
So-
neck. Oh my god.
So yeah, basically what happens is, I didn't understand this. They were like having this thing like, oh, because of being able to put a spaceship on top of a plane, which we have now done at this point to get the Endeavor to Los Angeles, which is incredible, by the way. If you're ever in Los Angeles and you can go to the California Academy of Sciences and see the Endeavor in person, it's breathtaking. Like, it's awe-inspiring.
Will you take me there, Mike?
If you come to Los Angeles to visit, I will absolutely take you there, buddy.
I might take you up on that offer.
You should. I've been wanting to go back and see it again.
Okay. We'll plan it.
But anyway,
It's a date.
it's a bro date. Bro date might just be a regular date.
Bro date.
But anyway, like there's a 777 airplane, right, with the spaceship on it, and they're talking about how because they can do this now, transatlantic flights are going to be way cheaper and anybody can afford to fly. Why?
Because we can go into space.
But why does that make the flights cheaper? But anyway, yeah, so they have this rocket, and like at the same time that this rocket / plane are in the sky, Lex Luthor puts a tiny little bit of crystal in water, which creates an EMP, which cuts out the electronics in like all of the East Coast and in this plane. But then it comes back, which that's not how EMPs work.
Nope. That thing
There's
is disabled.
They're fried. But they end up like the spaceship is unable to undock from the plane, and so it ends up causing this plane to like crash and whatnot. and immediately like it goes super fast, and you see Lois Lane go from the front of a 737, fly hundreds of feet to the back of the plane, slam into it, and she's fine. But then the plane starts to tumble, and you see her whack, 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 jumping around, and you see her like you see people getting hit in the face with luggage. Like hell of people died on this plane.
A lot of people definitely would have died. And why is he trying to stop it from the wing? Wing
I was like,
immediately
where's the
ripped
logic
off.
in that? Like, that's just gonna tear off.
Well, it rips off. It was a cool scene where like that plane rips off, that wing rips off, and then he's like has to play catch up to the plane again.
So he flies.
And then
through.
as he's flying, the other wing rips off, and he just flies right through it. And he, it is what it is. He ends up saving the day, but it's weird. It's a visually at the time was a cool scene, but it doesn't hold up now, and it's kind of weird.
Oh, Superman.
Doesn't he kill people in this one too?
I don't.
I mean, on purpose?
Maybe not on purpose, but like,
Yeah, I'm
I feel
pretty
like
sure he
somebody...
killed people, not on purpose, accidentally.
Right. What about that scene with the minigun? That made no sense.
Oh, dude, those guys in the helicopter totally died.
Right. But the things that didn't make sense about that minigun thing is it's a bank robbery, right?
Yep.
Traditionally, what are one of the things you do when you rob banks?
Oh, you
get in and out as
set
fast
up
as
a
you can.
minigun and you just mow down
That's
people.
on a giant mounted arm, and it spins around with 360-degree
They were
tripod.
prepared for anything.
It took more time to set that up than it would have taken just to rob the bank and get out.
Yeah.
It makes no goddamn sense. And there's another thing of his inconsistency with speed. The bullets already start firing before he gets anywhere near the building, and then all of a sudden he lands, and the time it takes for the gun to go, or the bullet to go from the gun to the people. Once again, why isn't he flying that fast when he goes to save Lois Lane, or to get to the island, or any of these other times?
Maybe he has to build up that speed.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I did like when he had to choose between saving Lois Lane immediately and protecting the city, and he like protects the city. I did find that to be reassuring.
Yeah. Thanks, Superman.
Because he goes and he flies through the tunnel, and he like breathes like really cold breath to prevent the fire from blowing up the entire the entire city, and then he catches the globe from the Daily Planet, and then goes to save the woman he wants to bang.
Which, of course, with his lightning speed, is no problem.
Right. But God, this movie's so weird. And there's certain things that like I think it did well. Same thing like the whole him playing two roles. I thought he was good, but
I thought he was a decent Clark Kent. I just was not a fan of Brandon Routh as Superman.
Well, that Superman suit was weird. I liked it in 2006, but now I think it looks really lame.
Oh, so lame.
Like with the weird, I'd never noticed he had that weird Superman belt that was like a duplicate of the logo up top, but all yellow.
All yellow. Bright yellow.
Yeah, the costume was dumb.
And this one, the S was made up of little S's.
Yeah, it's weird. I did like his little interactions where it's like, there's a point where Richard and Lois are talking about, and this makes no sense. They go, how tall is Superman? Oh, he's like 6'4", I think they said, and 125 pounds. What?
Yeah, 125? What?
There's no way he's 125 pounds.
Stick
That would be
man.
like a stick man, exactly.
And he just
And they're
waves
like,
at them.
hey. And there's another part where they're like taking a picture, and they totally stole this from Spider-Man, but they're looking at a blurry picture of Superman, and he goes, how did you get this? Where a little kid with a camera phone gets this picture, and it's
I was
an
actually
amazing picture.
really bothered by those amazing pictures taken
Because in
by
2006,
2-megapixel camera.
not even in 2006, cell phone cameras were not even 2 megapixels.
Oh my god, it was so bad. Yeah, that you would not have been able to make out anything in those pictures.
No, but they go, is that a bird? Is it a plane? No, and they're, hey guys, did you call for me?
Yeah.
In that same scene, there's a point where like Lois Lane's constantly trying to not write stories about Superman, and there's a point where she's like, I've done Superman, and everyone's like, huh?
I've covered Superman.
Yeah, I've covered him. I generally liked Lex Luthor or Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor.
Lex Luthor's Kevin.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
worked
Lex-
out as Lex Luthor.
Like when they're on the plane or the yacht, and she sees all the wigs, and she's like, "Oh shit, it's Lex Luthor. Let's get out of
Let's
here."
get the fuck out of here, kid.
And you see the little kid's like, "You're bald," and he's just like, "Lois Lane?" Kind of feel like he's brushing his teeth, so he says it weird. But he has this like good supervillain moment where he's like, "Come on, let me hear you say it just once." She's like, "You're insane." He's like, "No, not that. The other thing. Come on, I know it's dangling on the tip of your tongue. Let me hear it just once." She goes, "Superman will never." Wrong. Like, I thought he was good, and like his weird little like. It was weird how he was kind of like the comic relief in this movie, the villain, because there's like another point where
there's like
he's
in the pool where like he splashes it in, and then like it starts bubbling, and you see Lex like back up slowly.
Yeah, quickly. Wasn't it
Right.
quickly? I thought he like scrambled back there.
and then like nothing happens for a little bit, and then Parker Posey's character's like, "Gee, Lex, that's really exciting." He's like, "Wait for it," and then she waits like 5 seconds. "Geez, Lex, that's really exciting."
Well, I think it's because you had Superman not making his puns and being the emo Superman, so you had to have
Right.
comedic relief somewhere. Also, why is Superman's son so like feeble?
I don't know. It makes no sense.
I mean, I
And
get it.
at least he's not. He doesn't have the
try to make it
kryptonite
cover
issues.
up, right? But
He
should be
also
like
needs to get
Superboy.
seized to the atmosphere. Oh wait, no, that's a different movie.
Yeah. He doesn't have any issues with kryptonite, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I think we need to skip to the end because we're already almost at an hour and we've got a whole nother movie to talk about. But how the fuck does Superman lift an entire planet, not entire planet, an entire continent made out of kryptonite?
Because his willpower.
That's stupid, because even just being around kryptonite earlier,
I could have sworn, if I remembered correctly, he like flew up to the sun. But he didn't go all the way to the sun.
No, he just gets a little bit of sunlight on him.
Yeah, he gets like up. Let me suntan a little bit. Okay, I got this.
Well, and that's the thing. It's weird is so there's a point where he like arrives on the island and Lex Luthor sees that he's sweating and he just like, "Oh, Superman's a bitch now," and then he just like punches Superman. Like Lex Luthor punches Superman and he goes flying. And it's like, no, I can't depower him, but come on. And then he gets just like the shit beat out of him and like by just regular people just being around kryptonite, and then he gets stabbed with the kryptonite knife.
And he breaks it off.
Breaks it off
into him. He falls into the ocean. Somehow they're able to find him in the ocean. They pull the blade out.
I thought Lex was gonna throw him into the ocean because he's like, "Fly now, Superman," or something like that,
and then he just falls.
Lets him stumble off.
But it's like, why would you not make sure he's dead? Slit his throat with the kryptonite blade.
Okay.
Make sure he's actually dead, or get him in the gut a couple of times, not just
make some kryptonite bullets, put in his head. Just
right. Be Batman.
Make sure he's dead. But he comes back, and it's like even if he got a little bit of sunlight, he didn't heal completely. But if just being around kryptonite got him to the point where he could get the shit beat out of him, how is he able to fly?
That's just how much he loves his country.
Shit.
It's the American way.
Superman.
No, I mean, I don't know. I guess in my mind, I made it up that he flew to the sun and got all his power back and then did it. But he just flies up into the sky.
Yeah, I could have sworn, and maybe that was in the trailer or something, but I could have sworn he did that too, where he flies above the clouds, gets like, absorbs a bunch of sun, and then goes down. But that's not what happened.
Not at all.
Didn't that happen in Batman vs. Superman?
It did. But the other thing that's weird about this is then he like breaks into Lois's house and just like creeps on the kids like
while he's sleeping.
Yeah, the dad dies, and then the son becomes the dad and everything. It's like
he also says the son becomes the father becomes the son. I didn't understand that part.
I don't know. It's weird.
How's the father become the son?
I genuinely liked Brandon Routh, but this movie, it's really problematic that he goes and like just spies on her. And then like he's kind of a dick to her when she's like, he like takes her out into like the middle of the oceans, like, "What do you hear?" She's like, "Nothing." He's like, "I hear fucking everything. You guys never shut up. You say you don't need Superman, but I can tell you the world does, and you're kind of a bitch." And she's like, "Oh." That's basically what he did. Was like, it was really mean for you to write that article because people do need me. It's like he needed to be validated by her.
He loves her.
It's stupid.
Yeah, it is dumb. I agree. Superman Returns did not need to make that return.
No, it did not.
All right, Man of Steel. Let's just get to Man of Steel. 'cause
Man
we've
of
beat this to
Steel.
death.
This one's written by Jonah Pierce and Brian McInnes. This one, guys, it's amazing. It really didn't take two people to write this. Clark Kent is an alien who as a child was evacuated from his dying world and came to Earth living as a normal human. But when survivors of his alien homeworld invade, he must reveal himself to the world.
Yeah, I could. I need two people.
Wow.
I definitely need.
There was two sentences
Yeah.
there. There was one each.
Yep.
Oh, man. Good job, guys. Good job. I'm proud of you.
Thanks, Jonah and Brian.
All right, so how do you guys feel about Henry Cavill?
I think he is a very handsome and fucking ripped dude.
He is super ripped. I thought this was a weird kind of origin story because he's searching for himself like the entire beginning of the movie, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, but he doesn't become Superman until he finds the ship, and then he's immediately Superman.
Right. So I'm torn on this movie, but that's not what happened because he actually left that ship and then goes back to it a second time, and that's when he becomes Superman.
Right. Sorry, I missed one.
So I've kind of had like an ambivalent thing with this movie. So when I first saw it, I liked it, and I was one of those people. I'm like, Superman doesn't kill. That's a little weird. But I'm like, you know what? Maybe he'll learn from this. Like going into Batman v Superman and
that's
Justice
why he was all
League.
screamy and stuff. Like,
Right.
I don't want to kill you.
He clearly was distraught, and like I was like, okay, going forward, this is gonna be a big part of his character that like he doesn't kill if he can avoid it. Because that's the thing. Superman isn't like a no-kill rule. He just, if he can avoid it, he does, and he finds a way.
He's supposed to be. In the comics, he's like a very like he's a Boy Scout.
He's adverse to it,
like
but it doesn't
there's
mean
a
he hasn't
scene
done
where
it.
like Joker kidnaps Lois Lane, and it's like I'll give you the antidote if you kill me, Superman. And Superman decides like he does it, and he sacrifices.
Well, in the
Lois
cartoons,
Lane. That's supposed to be what Superman's all.
He's supposed to be more like that, even more so than Batman. But there is a comic book where he explicitly says if he can find a way to avoid it, he does avoid it. But like he would do it to save the planet, and he has.
Yeah.
So it's his last resort and kind of thing. So I thought, if they carry that into Batman v Superman and Justice League, I'm cool with him killing Zod, because in that circumstance there really wasn't anything else he could have done.
He had to kill him for sure.
Right.
But like you said, to that point, I mean, it is going to be part of who he is in the DC universe because he's always going to reflect on that, which he did in Superman vs. Batman, right?
Not really.
I mean, they brought it back up.
I mean, he didn't like that he did it, but the problem with movie studios these days is they take the wrong messages. So they're like, oh, Superman would make sure that he would take the fight away from people so that they don't get, collateral damage. In Batman v Superman, he doesn't make a conscious effort to take it away from civilians. They just happen to be on an island, and like there's a news report that says, hey, it's after 5 p.m., so nobody's on this island. They didn't learn that it's like, no, it's not that Superman fights when around it. He makes an effort to draw the bad guys away, not that they happen to be there. Like Warner Brothers took the wrong message where it's like, we don't want to see a bunch of civilians die. It's no, we want to see Superman notice civilians dying and then make a conscious effort to stop it and get the fight away. Not just don't just put the fight somewhere where there aren't people and just be like hand wave it away.
Hand wave.
But
I'm pretty sure a ton of people
like
died
this
in this
movie quite a bit. Me personally.
Yeah, I mean, it was enjoyable, especially after watching the other two movies.
Right. Well, and like you got a little bit more on Krypton. Krypton's fucking weird in this movie.
I
like
liked
weird
it.
bugs and pin and art stuff. I enjoyed it too. The thing that doesn't make sense is how is Russell Crowe such a badass fighter?
Because he's Russell Crowe and he was the
Yeah,
gladiator.
he had
But
training.
the thing is,
in Rome.
the whole thing that makes Clark special, aka Kal-El, is that he's the first naturally born Kryptonian in hundreds of years. He's the only one to be born from fucking in hundreds of years.
Yeah, they got the little pods.
Instead of the
now.
So they
Matrix
can have
pods.
choice, right?
Blood.
And they specifically mention in like this, so you get some exposition, you get a little bit about Krypton, and then fast forward an hour into the movie when Clark Kent meets Jor-El as an AI, you get a little bit more backstory about Krypton, but basically you find out that before birth you are assigned being a scientist, a military leader, a regular leader, regular fighter, or just servant kind of class. if he was the scientist dude, where did he get this like military training where to the point where he's able to beat in hand-to-hand combat the general of the entire military?
Maybe he programmed it into his AI.
But it wasn't the AI that did it. It was him
Oh yeah, you're talking about back
at
on
the beginning
Krypton.
of the movie.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
Maybe his fighting skills made him also become a better scientist.
Or maybe he programmed it into his suit.
No.
Oh, okay. Because they did have those big bulky suits.
Yeah,
They
it's
did.
like Iron Man. Analyze.
It was Jarvis. That's what it was.
Yeah, I don't know.
Clark
but
Fist.
the only real issue I have with this movie, and a lot of people had the issues with the Superman killing and the destruction at the end of the movie, and what I say to that is Superman's never been in a fight before.
Yeah.
And then he had to fight
Three
or four people who were just as strong as him. He went from never feeling pain in his entire life to being in a fight that a 4-to-1 fight kind of thing. Like, there's not a lot that he could do. He's never been in that situation before. So, I don't blame him for not being able to control that situation. The problem I had was with Jonathan Kent.
Dude, oh, God.
He's a fucking dickhead.
Yeah.
So
he didn't need to die.
No. So the thing about Jonathan Kent, like the whole thing that makes Superman Superman, and they have, like alternate reality versions of Superman where he got raised by Russians and he's, kind of evil. And then there's like a spoof comic, like I don't remember what it's called. I think it's called like Superior or something like, it's not Superior because that's a Mark Millar thing. There's it's called like Ultra Powerful or something like that, where it's supposed to be like Superman. They don't call him Superman, but instead of like he crashes at like a farm, but then like the FBI takes him and then the government trains him to be like an assassin kind of thing, right? The whole point is that he's got the like this Boy Scout attitude, is that Martha Kent and Jonathan Kent raised him to be this amazing person first and foremost.
Yep.
Jonathan Kent straight up tells him he should have let a bus full of teenagers die.
Maybe you should have.
Right. And then when this tornado's coming and they realize they left their dog in the car, why would you not let your son, who can move faster than the speed of sound,
go get the
dog,
move
so fast that he's blurry, get the dog and run back, and nobody would fucking notice.
Because no one's looking back that way anyway.
Right.
Everybody's running away.
Secondly, if you don't want him to use his powers and save the dog, let the dog die.
Ugh.
As much as that sucks, why would you die over the dog in a tornado? Nobody would have fought him.
At this point, he knows he's invulnerable too. So even if he gets caught up in the tornado, he could have let the dog go and just get blown away by a tornado and be fine.
Right. Or he wouldn't have got his foot stuck in there. He would have just ripped the door off the car, got the dog out, and gone. Jonathan Kent climbs into the car, gets his foot stuck in the car. He wanted to, even if he got his foot stuck, he would have just ripped the car apart to get out of it, and he would have been fine. And then the car would have got sucked up by a tornado anyway and torn apart. Nobody would have known better. Why did he have to die?
He didn't have to die.
He didn't have to die.
I was like, he made him let him die.
And then he waves and just lets himself be killed. It's really dumb.
I agree.
Yeah.
Fuck Jonathan Kent. I
Kevin
generally
Costner.
like this movie, though. I was pleasantly surprised at how I went into this movie thinking, you know what, this movie's probably not going to age well. The rest of the DC movies are garbage, except for Wonder Woman, but even Wonder Woman kind of falls apart the last 20 minutes of the movie. But really, the only thing I didn't like was the Jonathan Kent thing. But other than that, like I thought it was pretty cool, except for all the penis stuff.
I mean, one thing that penis stuff was weird. One thing that bothered me was that fucking Henry Cavill's so buff, he looks short sometimes. I don't know. Sometimes I'm like looking at it, it's like he doesn't look tall enough to be Man of Steel. Oh wait, he's just super ripped.
He's so fucking ripped. So, because he's like 6'2".
Yeah, he's
6'2" and 125 pounds.
So he was going to be Superman. He was actually in the running when Brandon Routh got it, and then also before the Superman Returns, J.J. Abrams was going to be doing a Superman movie as well, and he was in the running for that. So he went to be Superman 3 times before he got it.
Well, I'm glad he finally got it.
He was also in the running to be Batman when when Christian Bale got it.
Well, I'm glad that worked out that way.
Yeah, he was also going to be 007 when Daniel Craig got it. Like, he's been so close to getting roles so many times before he got this. And I generally think he's a great Superman. Like, from a physical standpoint, he's the best Superman we've had.
He
Yeah,
looks,
so far,
he
definitely.
definitely looks the part.
Yeah. So to get that physique, he specifically said that he didn't want to do any kind of steroids or any kind of CGI on him, and he didn't want like a padded suit. So he's like, I want to get to that physical look. So when he decided to do that, Zack Snyder added 2 shirtless scenes because he's like, if he gets this ripped and we don't show him shirtless, people are going to think the suit's just padded. And we don't want to do that. So that's why they had 2 shirtless scenes. But to get as ripped as he did, he'd been training for months prior. He was doing, every day he was drinking like 1,000-calorie milkshake just before working out. And he was doing such a workout that his trainer basically did a thing where it was like, if you could walk away from the workout, you weren't working hard enough. But he was doing like 5,000 calories a day working out. And then 6 weeks before his shirtless scenes, he cut to 1,500 calories to get to, and then just started working his abs like crazy to get to that shot.
That's crazy.
Yeah. He
That's
was
some
working on this
dedication,
for crazy. So after they filmed his shirtless scene, Zack Snyder got him a tub of ice cream and a pizza right afterwards. But yeah, he's fucking ripped.
Yeah,
He's so
fucking
goddamn
huge.
ripped. Like, it's weird because Katrina constantly like always like, I don't get it. Like, actors who are like just like super fucking hot. Like, I'm comfortable enough with my sexuality to say that Henry Cavill is a fucking god amongst men.
He's a yeah.
He's
Superman.
fucking handsome as hell. He's got a nice voice and he's fucking ripped. And then like, so him, you look at like Chris Evans as Captain America. That's another godly human being. And both of those men, like, those are men. I am lucky to be able to call myself a man when those 2 people exist in this world. And she's like, nope, doesn't do it for me. And I'm like, you are fucking crazy.
You know who does it for her, Mike?
Huh.
You.
Yeah, that's true.
Lucky guy. No
But
wonder she
you know
doesn't
what?
like Henry Cavill.
I'm
not
no
his
Henry
type.
Cavill.
Not her type. Handsome men.
Like, she likes Chris Hemsworth, which I get. But how do you like Chris Hemsworth and not Henry Cavill?
Maybe she's into blonde guys.
Then why doesn't she like Chris Evans?
Because he looks dumb.
And he's nice in person, too, apparently. And he seems like, I'm just saying, these are good-looking dudes, and you should like them, Katrina.
I mean, I agree with that. I'm not going to say I don't like him. I
Right.
would have a man crush on him.
Yeah, they're fucking ripped, bro.
Yeah, that's goals. Hashtag goals.
Right.
No, not really. I'm not going to work towards that.
One of the things
Well,
I
this
didn't,
podcast took a
that I
turn.
didn't understand. So when they were doing the flashback, and he just like gets all of his powers all of a sudden, like he gets his X-ray powers, his heat ray vision, and his super hearing. They call his mom, and he's like, "The world's too big." What?
Yeah.
What
I
does
don't
that
know.
mean?
And how'd she know to tell him to focus? It's not like
she's
he
like,
actually
"Make
said
it
that he was
smaller."
good
How
at
did she
everything.
know not to grab the handle?
No, he did say like, I can hear everything kind of thing. So she's like, just focus on my voice. But yeah, how did she not immediately go for the door and burn herself like Home Alone? Oh man. The other thing that the one thing that did bother me that I felt was like out of character or just stupid was when he destroyed, like he's working at that restaurant and this patron is just harassing this waitress and he's like, "Hey, knock it off or I'm gonna have to ask you to leave." And this guy's like 4'2", walks up to this fucking beautiful man who's fucking godlike and like pours a beer on him, and he's just like, the waitress like, "It's not worth it." And then the guy like doubles down and throws a beer can at his head. So then he destroys this guy's big rig with a bunch of logs, and it's like,
Yeah, that was crazy.
that's stupid. It's like, it would make more sense just to fucking pick him up by the throat and just be like, "Listen here, bitch, get the fuck out of here." And the thing is, Henry Cavill's fucking huge, and that guy was small. Nobody would be like, "Dude, that's a Superman guy." Like doing this, like they would just be like, "That guy's fucking ripped and can pick up a person."
Yeah, but then if you have this big rig that's impaled by telephone poles,
And then,
That's
you
much
know,
more
a year
questionable.
later, Superman shows up. They'd be like, "Oh, I know Superman. I don't, he went by whatever his name," because they mentioned like when Lois Lane is going around looking for him,
yeah, the trail.
that people remembered him. Like, yeah, he used false names and whatnot, but like they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I totally know who Superman is. That's this guy who destroyed a big rig with 4 logs.
He held up a falling oil rig, and
That was cool. I thought that was a really cool shot when he like goes into the oil rig and it's on fire and he pulls the door off and the fire's just like burning his clothes off. So you just see fire, like him completely engulfed in fire, but he looks fucking ripped.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
It was a really cool shot.
I would have been frightened for my
I
dear
did
life.
like when he was learning how to fly, how he was kind of laughing and everything.
And falling into the ground.
Yep.
I laughed when he like destroyed that mountain. that
The
he fell
mountain.
into. Yeah.
You know what I didn't understand? Why didn't they just let Zod and his people die on Krypton? Like, put them in a prison on Krypton
why did
and
they
just let them
send
die?
him like?
In the penis pods.
Yeah, the penis pods.
Yeah, straight up.
I was like,
like,
wouldn't they?
They looked like their little personal vehicles. Looks like fucking dildos.
Yeah,
Yep, 100%. Just penis
It's
pods.
fucking
and then it
weird.
goes into a giant penis, and then that penis goes into a hole.
Penisception.
And you saw baby penis like 3 times in this movie. There's a lot of penis in Superman movies.
Because it's Man of Steel.
Oh. The other thing I don't
was
understand.
Go ahead.
Can you answer this question for me,
No,
guys?
probably not, but go ahead.
All right. So at the beginning of the movie, when they're like, "Oh, we're gonna send to this planet with a yellow sun," they're like, Jor-El, played by Russell Crowe's like, that sun is way younger than ours and is way more radioactive. His cells will drink the radiation and he'll be like a fucking god to those humans.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So they explain that his body has been, the reason he's so super is that he's been
For
absorbing
yellow
this
sun,
radiation for 33 years. So the other Kryptonians show up. They haven't been there that long. They haven't been absorbing as much radiation. So I feel like he should be way stronger than them.
I agree. They should be way stronger. But even when they're wearing those protective suits, they have powers, which they shouldn't, I thought.
No, the
that's
suit
the
was
thing that doesn't
helping
make
them.
sense to me.
The suit was helping.
So that doesn't make any sense to me. So when he is in the spaceship and it's like set up to be mirroring the Krypton environment, he should still have his powers. Like, it would make sense that maybe he was having trouble breathing because he's not used to that atmosphere.
It just throws
But the
up
whole
blood.
point is it's not the planet that gives him powers, it's the sun.
Yeah.
He's still within range of the sun.
Yeah, it's not the atmosphere.
Right. So he should still have all the powers on the spaceship, right?
Because he can fly into space and not have any atmosphere and be fine.
Exactly. So then they end up on the planet, like they end up back on Earth, and he's able, like, when he's around the terraformer, he doesn't have his power. Like, he starts to lose his powers because it's making it more like Krypton. The sun still is there. They're terraforming the planet, not the solar system. The sun's
Yeah.
still there.
Doesn't make sense.
So my main question, though, is why would the Kryptonians want to terraform the planet?
To
Why
be
would they
less
not just
powerful?
want to stay as powerful as they are?
Because
Or if
don't
you
know.
really want to bring back Krypton, like, there's a way to do it without killing. Why not terraform the moon?
I was actually
or
thinking
Mars?
that, like, why did they have to terraform Earth? Was there something I missed? Like,
No, he just doesn't care if they kill people.
no, he doesn't
There's
want
no
to.
reason.
They say doesn't want. He's not interested in sharing the planet.
well, like, they
Fine,
could
go to Mars or the
go
moon.
somewhere else. Just
I don't know, man. I don't know.
There's no reason for it.
Maybe just to get back at Jor-El.
That's the only
that's
thing that
all
kind
I-
of makes
yeah.
sense.
All right, you answered it.
I
David.
did really like when they're in that fight and they're on the construction site and Zod jumps at him with the girder and he uses his laser vision to like cut the girder in half.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. I thought the fight scenes were incredible in this movie.
Yeah, fight scenes were pretty cool.
They're fucking rad.
I like that
it-
he had his own super suit under his armor.
Well, so that's the thing that's funny is that it's supposed to be under, like, because Jor-El is wearing like cloaks and everything, and then he takes off his cloaks to go swimming, and then he puts the armor on. Like, the Superman suit's literally underwear.
Underwear on the outside.
Yeah. So I thought the fight scenes were great. And the thing that drives me crazy about people who don't like this movie is people have been wanting a Superman movie where he fights somebody strong for a long time, and they get it in this, and they don't like it. Now, that being said, the rest of the DC movies are crap, but I actually
Dude,
find this movie to be pretty solid overall.
I wanted Doomsday to be so good,
And
but
it wasn't.
just was not.
Why did he teach Zod how to adapt to the world?
Yeah, he waited for him to adapt to the world.
Yeah, it's dumb.
I gotta say, I did like all the casting in this movie, though. I think everyone was cast
Lois
really well.
Lane, played by Amy
Amy
Adams.
Adams.
This was her third time auditioning for the role as well.
And then Michael Shannon as Zod. He did a great
That
job.
was good. Did you know
And then,
Diane Lane is only 9 years older than Amy Adams?
Judge Hershey.
Judge Hershey. That's
Oh,
pretty
man.
crazy. The other thing that I wrote down, my other note, was Lois is racist and culturally insensitive because when Superman agrees to turn himself into the military, she's like, "What's with the S?" And he's like, "It's not an S. On my planet it means hope." And she's like, "Well, here it's an S." Racist.
But that's how girls flirt.
Stupid. By being racist?
No, but
culturally
just telling
insensitive?
men they're stupid.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, for me, the only issue I really have with this movie is Jonathan Kent.
Just being a douchebag and making.
You
his
know
son
who was
watch him
originally
die.
supposed to be Feora, the female Kryptonian?
Who?
Gal Gadot. But she had to drop out because she was pregnant.
I'm glad that happened.
Yep. I like Gal Gadot.
Yeah, she's really good. I really liked Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White.
Yeah, he's good. I like Lawrence Fishburne in pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
Fight scenes were cool.
Oh, I got
powers
one
were
other thing, but
cool.
I'll go after you guys.
The
I've got
ships
two more
were kind of
things.
weird. Why did
Yeah,
they
the ships
attack
were
him
super
immediately?
weird. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either.
All right.
And
I've
then
got
what
two
was
more
with the
things. Do you have any-
singularity point? Like, why was it not way more destructive?
I don't know. Did all the other Kryptonians get killed by that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
They got sucked into it.
Yeah, they did. So 2 questions.
Yep.
Okay. No, so 2 things. 1 question and then 1 just observation. One of the things that a lot of people gave Justice League shit for, and I think Justice League is a piece of shit movie. But one of the things people gave it like a bunch of shit for was, Metropolis gets destroyed and then Batman v Superman's super dark.
Yep.
Like it's a super dark movie and there's like points where you see him kind of ignoring people's cries for help. And then Justice League comes around and they're like, Superman was a symbol for hope and everybody mourns him, and they just show like weird footage of him with his fucked up lip. Like helping people and being on cell phone
He looked
footage
like
and everything like that. And he's like,
Farquaad from Shrek. It was horrible.
right. And so they're like, he was a hero and an inspiration to man. And, in this guy's thing, I'm like, no, he wasn't. He was a dickhead in Superman, Batman v Superman. But in this one, I actually do see it where he he saves the people, but also when he's fighting everybody in Kansas, or in Kansas, Smallville. He, like, every time a soldier's about to get killed, he shows up out of nowhere and saves them. And he's making a point to save all the military guys. And then at the end of the scene, the guy from Special Victims Unit was like, hey, he's not our enemy. Like, kind of thing. And it's like, you see, like, this look of admiration that all the soldiers are giving him. And they're like, this guy's a cool dude. Like, I actually did see this Superman giving hope to people. And it's just weird how, honestly, I think this might be the best movie in the DC universe. I think I like this better than Wonder Woman.
So far, it's up there for sure. Batman, oh God. I wanted Batman to be so good.
I wanted it to be so good, and it wasn't.
I actually like the
Yeah.
extended cut a lot more.
Well, that's because you're an idiot.
It's
No, I mean, I like the movie. It's just not as near as good as these two movies. Like
that
this and
movie's
Wonder
not
Woman.
good. It has one good scene, which is the warehouse scene.
Oh,
Well,
yeah, okay.
That one scene was worth paying for the ticket to go see it. In a movie
really,
theater.
Zack Snyder just wanted to do a Batman movie. That's really what this whole.
And the thing is,
DCU
I'm a
is.
Zack Snyder apologist. I love Zack Snyder. His Dawn of the Dead is one of my favorite movies. I
300,
really like Watchmen. Oh, I think Watchmen's fantastic. I love 300. Even Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch is no. You got to watch the director's cut of Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch got edited to be PG-13 and took out some really important story elements that actually like make the movie make sense. But Sucker Punch visually is amazing. It's an original story.
Yeah,
It's
visually it's
weird.
pretty cool.
And the director's cut of Sucker Punch is fucking fantastic.
I haven't seen it.
Maybe I'll
Maybe,
watch it
again.
I'll check it out.
I think
It's
I own it.
really
I'll
good.
have to check
Like the
my
whole thing with
stash.
John Hamm makes a lot more sense than the director's cut. So anyway, I'm a Zack Snyder apologist, with the exception of Batman v Superman. But yeah, the one other thing that I had was at the end of the movie, he gets a job at the Daily Planet. What qualifications does he have?
He's handsome.
Oh, got it.
He has glasses.
I really don't like that Lois Lane knew Superman before he was Superman.
I liked it.
Yeah. She figured it out immediately.
Right. And she tracks him down and everything. Well, it takes away.
I mean, this movie's
A
already
big
doing
part of
things
who he
different.
is.
Like Jonathan Kent is different, so it's just like at this
That's
point,
true.
at least like let's give
But-
her some credit. She's a pretty good journalist, and she can figure out
Right.
who Superman is.
I did like her a lot as Lois Lane. No, I think she's the best of the 3 Lois Lanes.
I agree.
Overall, I think this is a great movie. So I think we should go through and say, was Superman Returns needed?
No,
No.
definitely not.
I think that time frame was a right time to have a Superman movie. It's just it wasn't that one.
I would also like to say that Margot Kidder looks exactly like Courtney Cox.
Very similar, yeah. I wouldn't say exactly the same.
I just keep seeing Monica.
Okay, Man of Steel, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. I think this was a great movie, and I think it did enough things different, and I actually really like it. Like, I really enjoyed watching the movie the entire time.
I think there's potential. I think there not this. Henry Cavill should still say Superman, but I think there's going to be a Superman movie that's going to be really great. And it's going to be what holds true that everyone wants.
You know what I think is
think
going to
they'll
be the best
actually call it
superhero or the
Superman.
Superman movie? I think Shazam is going to be the best Superman movie.
I think that's just going to be a comedy.
But I feel like it's just the endearing and not being dark because he has so many of Superman's powers.
I could see that. Yeah.
I think Henry Cavill is probably the best possible Superman we can get. I just don't think he's been given the right movies.
No. Yeah.
Like, I think if you put Henry Cavill in the Christopher Reeves one in the 70s, it would have been incredible. Like, people would have been like, holy shit, that's Superman.
It is Superman. He's
Right.
so buff.
But I would love to see Henry Cavill be in a good Superman movie. I'd love for them just to go, because DC has said that they're going to stop doing the extended universe and just do good movies and then maybe bring it back together. Like, reboot Superman, but keep Henry Cavill.
That'd be interesting.
Like, that's where I'm at.
Make it happen.
All right. Well, anything else, guys?
All of these movies were unnecessarily long.
They're all like 2
Yeah,
hours,
I think you
2
could have
hours and
edited.
a half, right? Something like that.
Yeah, they were all over 2.5 hours. The Superman wasn't. Superman 2 was like 2 hours and
7 minutes, I think.
yeah. Oh, no, it was like 2 hours and 20 something minutes. It was just shy of.
Superman Returns was just so hard to watch.
That one was
It's
very
long.
long
Fucking
and boring. I don't understand why James Marsden left the X-Men franchise to do that.
I
What a
don't know,
fucking
man.
idiot. Wouldn't you rather be Wolverine's bitch than Brandon Routh's bitch?
Well, I mean, Superman's cool, right? But who knew that it was
Wouldn't you
gonna
rather be
shitty?
Cyclops than the guy who's getting cuckolded by
I mean,
Superman?
no. The X-Men Last Stand wasn't great either.
Honestly, go back and watch it. It's no worse than the other two.
Oh no, I really liked X-Men too.
Honestly, I worked at the movie theater when it came out. People fucking loved that movie when it came out. It was super busy. People came out of that was awesome. It wasn't until like months later that people were like, it wasn't good. People loved that fucking movie when it came out. So fuck everybody. Fuck
I
all
still
of our
gotta go watch
listeners.
Captain
No, I'm
Marvel.
just kidding.
No, we love you guys.
Anyway, thank you guys for listening to Remake Rewind. Check out our other podcast, Ruin My Childhood. If you guys have something you want us to cover, call 64 MDXpods 1.
Did you want me to call it again?
No. If you guys have any
Is it a free phone call?
that you would like us to answer, if you want us to do any like fan casting or anything like that, give us a call. We'll play your voicemail and then we'll answer your question. And check us out on patreon.com/MDXpods. Please do us a big favor, write a review for us on Apple Podcasts. It helps us out a lot. Please like, share our stuff. If you like our podcast, share it with a friend. And that's it. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Bye.
Stay super, guys.
Thanks.